So that's great, folks. Thank you very much. I can see a few folk are starting to join us now as we're starting to get ready for our online book launch with Caroline. We'll be a few minutes before we actually get started. Inevitably, there's a wee bit of a time lag, but in the meantime, we'll just have a bit of general chit chat before we get underway. And hopefully you've had a good day over in, is it Paisley? I can never remember whether it's Paisley or Johnston, Caroline Johnston. I think I get confused with the name.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I lived in Johnston until I got married, and then I moved to Paisley once I became a Johnston, but it is a different spelling.
It's a very different spelling. That E makes a huge amount of a difference.
Yeah, you ask Anna Green Gables about that E at the end.
Oh, is that right? Tell us about
that. With an E makes all the difference.
Right. Okay. I have to confess, and maybe it's the wrong thing to confess on the evening an online book launch, that I have never read Anne of Green Gables.
Oh yes.
Dear.
Tusk.
That's right.
I've even been to Prince Edward Island.
Oh wow!
And I have actually been to Green Gables. So.
Oh, fantastic! You mean it's actually a real place?
It's an actual place. See, all fiction. There's a bit of reality in there.
Right. Okay. So was that a good lesson for fiction writing? Was it?
Yeah. Well, in fact, as well, because Anne of Green Gables, the whole thing was always start writing from something you know. So there you go.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we'll get some reflections of that as we look at that.
Yeah.
When was that you were out in Canada?
Oh, that was quite a few years ago.
Right. So you don't need to say how many.
Yeah, quite a few.
Good. Okay. You got relatives out there? Or was that a holiday?
Yeah, well, my husband's got some relatives out there.
Fantastic.
But it was also a holiday as well, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. I have to say Canada is a place I would love to go, actually.
Oh, totally recommend it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if my wife's listening, but next big birthday that's coming up, that's definitely what we want to do.
Yeah, just do it.
Although we'll probably not be doing that for a short time, but there we go.
Once it's safe to do so.
Once it's safe to do so, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. Thanks very much indeed. So, and Fran says, I love the Anne of Green Gables too. Fran says, I've got all the books.
Oh yeah, I've got.
So you mean that's not just one book; it's a whole series of books I've got to read.
8 books altogether.
Okay. So you're aiming to follow that? This is your 3rd book, Caroline. So you're aiming for the 8th?
Yeah, let's do it.
And you've obviously had fun rearranging the bookcase behind you, have you?
Yes, I know. Look, see.
Very good.
I'll make sure I only show my own books and not my husband's books.
Right. Okay. And we do need to ask you what's happened to all the other books.
They're dumped in the living room.
In a whacking great pile somewhere, are they?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to look in there.
That's the joys of Zoom sometimes, isn't it? That you can just completely clear everything out of the way.
Yeah. This is how tidy my house is.
Oh yes, that's right. Likewise us. We just have one picture on the wall. Good. Okay, well look, that's a few minutes after 8 just now, and what I'm going to do, just to avoid any unpleasantness with notifications, I'm just going to turn Facebook off on my phone, because we know what Facebook can be like sometimes. So yeah, that's good. So everybody, just want to give you a really warm welcome to our online book launch this evening. I want to welcome Caroline in particular. Thank you, Caroline, for taking time out of your busy day, tidying your house, so that you can join us for the book launch. We'll say hello to Miriam as well, who's somewhere up in the top left-hand corner. And yeah, good to see you, and thank you for your help this evening. And also going to say hello as well. One of the benefits of doing these book launches on Facebook Live is, of course, it's up on Facebook Live in perpetuity. So that means that the times I stumble over my words and forget my lines, everybody's going to be able to see it forever. Not only my children, but my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will be able to go back and look at it. So in case you're looking at this in the year 2084 or something like that, then thank you for joining us as well. And hopefully Caroline's books will last as long as Anne of Green Gables.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks so much. One of the great benefits that we have as working in the Globe Bookshop as an independent Christian bookshop is that we have the ability to work with authors like Caroline and help them to promote and develop their book, and obviously just get their writing out to a wider audience. And it's been a pleasure to work with Caroline on her last two books, which were What If? There's the first one just there, which is also strategically placed behind Caroline. Very well done. And we've got one here as well. And her second book, which was Raincoats and Sunglasses. And for those of you who follow Caroline's Facebook page, then you probably know she's been appealing for assistance for titles for the follow-up. So I don't know, have you made any decision on a title for the follow-up to Raincoats and Sunglasses? At the
moment, I'm thinking maybe Snow Boots and Sunglasses.
All right, okay.
So, and I'm just going to say now, I'm targeting Christian Bookshop Day 2021 for that launch. Okay.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to that. We'll get ourselves booked in there.
Yeah.
We'll get ourselves booked in there. So, and tonight, of course, what we have is Caroline's new book, which is Why Not, is officially released tomorrow, Saturday the 3rd of October, and that is also, as Caroline has helpfully sneaked in there, it's Christian Bookshop Day. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll have these on sale from 9 o'clock tomorrow. Or if you want to make an order at some point this evening, then we'll get those posted off to you tomorrow, or you can collect them. But before we do that, inevitably it wouldn't be something at the Globe Bookshop without a quick commercial break. So one of the things which you want to do is talk about the bits and pieces that we've got going on for Christian Bookshop Day. So we've got a special offer on Caroline's books, which is the first one. This one will be £6 over the weekend. So just £6. And then we've also got a special offer as well with all three of the books will be £20. So we've got a package of £20, and that will be over this weekend, and you'll get them for £20 with free UK post and packing. And I'll also mention Miriam at this point here, because Miriam's in the background there, and what she's going to be doing is she's going to be answering any questions or queries that you've got about purchasing the books, etc. So we've got those lurking around in there. But let me just tell you about some of the other things that which we've got going on at the moment, and also which we'll have on specially tomorrow. So one of the great things which we have is we've got a colouring competition. So we've got a kids colouring competition at the moment. And if you look on the Globe Bookshop Facebook page, you can download the colouring page, or of course, you can call in for that, but you've only got a wee while left on that, because we're going to pick a winner on this tomorrow evening. Just before we close, we'll have a total impartial judge to pick a winner who will get £20 worth of Globe Bookshop vouchers. I can hear a huge big online woo in the background. And we've also got about a dozen or so of these free children's books to give away as well. So we'll get those to you. And we've got that operating at the moment. One of the other things which have been, I have to say, privileged to do, we are a Bible bookshop at our heart, and our friends at Cambridge Bibles have given us a special offer at the moment with thanks to Amanda Taylor. You'll be getting tagged at some point, but Amanda's allowed us to do a special offer with 15% off Cambridge Bibles, the entire Cambridge Bible range, and that will be running right the way through to the end of October. So that is a brilliant offer. Now, these are really good quality Bibles, so they're not cheap, and that 15% is actually an ideal way of getting the costs down if you're looking for a special present for somebody. And we've also got some goodie bags as well. And in the goodie bag, we also have a lovely mug, in addition to some other bits and pieces. And then we've got some special offers for Christian Bookshop Day itself tomorrow. Sale over £20, you're going to get a free book. And that's from our friends at Muddy Pearl, the Guy Brandon's books digitally remastered. And I probably should have read this beforehand to see if there are any handy hints on getting Zoom to work on Facebook Live, because I think we're so far so good. I think we've almost mastered that, but there's a free book tomorrow with sales over £20. And also, if we've got sales over £50, we've also got 5 of these Charlie Mackesy bags to give away with that great message on them, books are my bag. So these are cracking bags, and we've got special offers on those ones there as well, some freebies. And of course, we've got some discount offers. We've got a whole load of sales stock, which we've got a further reduction on 25%, because we'd like to get rid of the stuff, because we've got loads and loads of Christmas coming in at the moment. And we've also got some special offers in our second-hand section as well. We've got £5 mystery boxes, and we call them mystery boxes because we haven't a clue what's in them as well, apart from the fact there's a big box full of books, and you're welcome to have a wee rake through them and see what's in there. So loads of different things going on. We're open in the bookshop tomorrow from 9 o'clock until 5:30, and of course the Glow Coffee Shop is also available as well, 9:30 until 3:30. Good. Well, I think that brings us probably just about up to date with all the adverts, and that's probably enough about us, and probably it's time to ask a wee bit more about Caroline. So Caroline, why don't you tell us something about yourself? Because I was actually kind of ticking this through in my head the other night, and although we've met and although we've talked on a number of different occasions, I have to say I don't actually really know a great deal about you. So and then I thought to myself, well, maybe Caroline has always been a rich and famous author like J.K. Rowling.
Of course.
So tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get into writing?
So I was actually thinking about this as well, and I was thinking sometimes you get to know people and then you forget where you actually first met them and how you got to know. And I was just thinking, when did I first meet Andrew? And actually, I think it was a Revival FM Christmas concert, maybe at the SECC.
Yes.
And we were both in the market stall.
Yep.
I used to be part of a team that ran a company called Eat a CD.
Yes.
We started off as a company to distribute Christian music, but we expanded into anything that could be digitally distributed. And actually then we discovered that people preferred physical, and it was easier to sell physical for us if we went out to events. So we would go to events like Revival FM, and that's where I got to meet people like Andrew and lots of other fab people. But the reason I also mentioned Eat a CD is because that basically was where my writing started from. The guy who gave us the idea for it is American, and he had the whole, dream big, dream often. And you kind of think, yeah, do you know, that's okay for Americans because they're kind of into that. We're British, we don't do that. And I kind of thought, if I did have a dream, what would it be? And I just thought, I used to like writing, creative writing when I was at school. Maybe there's something about that. But then also, because of doing Eat a CD, then I had a ready-made platform that I could use to start getting anything I wrote out as well. So from that point of view, it gave me an easy place to start. And so back to the reference of Anna Green Gables and write from what you know. I decided in churches I've always been involved in kind of the middle-aged kids. So like at our churches now, it's like primary 7 to second year, and that's totally my favourite age group to be around. And I thought, because at that time I wasn't doing anything at church with the young folk, I thought, maybe I'll just write a book for that kind of age group.
As you do.
And so I did. And so that's where What If came about from. But funnily enough, before I actually wrote What If, I had the book title Raincoats and Sunglasses, which is also part of my journey of deciding to try writing. I lived in the West End of Glasgow at that time, and I worked at Charing Cross. So I used to walk to work. And one day I was walking to work and I was like, look at all these women walking to work. They're all wearing raincoats and sunglasses. I thought, that'd be a great title for a book. And I thought, oh, book, what am I thinking of here? And so that was kind of part of the, oh, okay, let's give this a go. So those kind of things all kind of did that thing, but it all kind of converges in quite a short time space, and you think, okay, I'll give that a go. So now I live in Paisley. And I'm married to Innes, and I have 3 children, Callum, Cameron, and Cara, because we only had the C chapter of the baby name book. So
excellent. What age are the kids? Are they not kids?
They're not so much kids now, 20, 15 and 12.
Right, okay. And are they kind of watching this evening, do you think, or is it all just too embarrassing?
No, they're actually not, so that we're not using up any bandwidth apart from me in the house, just in case. Just in case we glitch something. They've been
banned, have they? Yeah.
So they're banned, they're all in another part of the house, not using internet.
That's right, I have to say we're exactly the same here. Barbara's sort of been banished into the other room. We've even turned the heating off, so this sort of the trendy remote-controlled central heating thing doesn't interfere. So if you see me going and putting a woolly jumper on in a few minutes, that'll be why.
That's the best one ever.
The sacrifices that we have to go to for art.
I know, exactly.
That's exactly what it's like. Good. So look, that brings us up to date, and I have to say that I have to say where they go. Your books, they're self-published, aren't they? You don't have a big publisher behind you. You've done basically all of this yourself.
Yeah.
And I have to say they're beautifully produced. I've seen books that have got really tedious and boring covers, and I think whoever designs your covers, they do a great job because they tell you what's inside the book.
They do. And so my background's in marketing. When I used to be out of the house working, I worked in marketing. And so I think that's maybe part of my thing. And I'm definitely somebody who judges a book by its cover.
Yeah. We all do.
So I know that's the first thing. And so I think with my background in marketing, I'm very aware of that's your key marketing place as your cover. With What If, there was an American girl we worked with for E2CD, and she did my cover for me. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it was brilliant. I gave her very little direction, and she just did it, and I loved it. And you can tell from the cover what it is.
Yeah.
And then with Raincoats and Sunglasses, I also we lived in Amsterdam for 5.5 years.
Oh, right.
And when we were there, we knew people from like all over the world because it's such a cosmopolitan city. And this is actually a South African friend who we had in Amsterdam, who then moved to Australia, who then moved to America. So while she was in America, she did the cover for Raincoats and Sunglasses, because I'd seen sketches she'd put on Facebook, and as soon as I saw her sketches, I was like, oh, Tanya has to do my cover for Raincoats and Sunglasses. And she did it again, just amazing job, and just totally captures the fact. Yeah, it's a bit of a chick lit. And then for Why Not, a lot of you on here probably know Graham Hewitson. So that is Graham who's done my cover for Why Not. He got a local guy to be the model for the front, and then put it all together. And again, it just matches so beautifully with What If. So I'm very fortunate. I know a lot of good creative people.
Well, it's actually really helpful, and I have to say that's one of the things which impressed me right from the very first time you came to the shop and you showed us What If with those really, really striking covers. So very well done for that. But anyway, look, tell us something about the new book. Over to you for a few minutes and tell us something about the new book.
Right, so I'm actually going to start back at the very beginning with What If. So just in case there's somebody on here who's not read What If, like as if there would be, What If is about a 14-year-old girl called Rachel. And the reason I'm starting off telling you about this one is because this one, Why Not, is set about 4 or 5 months after this one takes place. So it's most of the same characters that are in What If reappear in Why Not. So Rachel, who is a third year Scottish high school pupil, gets asked a couple of what if questions. So, what if she takes part in a school play? What if Jesus was one of her friends in school? And how would that change the way she looks out into the world and friendships, etc.? And so that puts her in a few fun, silly situations, but also helps her develop in terms of friendships and her faith and stuff. And so in What If, we have Rachel and her best friend is Anna. And then there's a boy in her class, some of her classes called David, who the two of them just like rub off each other. And one of his friends is Andrew, who just so happens to go to the same church as Rachel goes to. So he's in What If, but not a huge character in it. And then there's also a girl called Fiona, who's David's girlfriend. And, you know, she's just one of those girls. She's really popular and she's quite happy to put other people down. So that is the main characters from What If, who then appear in Why Not. Now, the reason I wrote Why Not, when I first wrote What If, I had no intention of it being more than just that one book until my friend Lorna said, I think you should tell us Andrew's story. And I was like, okay, I have two boys, and sometimes you think girl fiction's like a little bit easier for me also to get into the headspace of. So I had to try and figure out what 14-year-old boys are about. What are they thinking? What are they doing? I don't know. Anyway, I thought, okay, let's have a go at this and see if we can get a book from a boy's perspective. So this time it's from Andrew's perspective. So far, all my books are written in first person, so you can all get right into them and be part of the story. Andrew's thing is he just feels really average, which I think is probably a thing a lot of people experience when they're high school and trying to work out who they are. He's trying to work out what subjects to pick, what to do job-wise, and he's in this situation where he feels like everyone else knows what they want to do and what they want to be, and therefore what subjects to choose. And of course, that's not the situation at all, but that's how it just feels to him. And so he's struggling trying to work out what to do in terms of subjects. And we have some like friendship stuff going on because it's high school. So, you know, there has to be issues around friendships about who his friends are, who's really got his back, and who's just trying to make him do stuff because it fits in with other people. So that is kind of the mix of things he's got going on. And when we first meet Andrew, he's hanging out with Fiona and David, and the book starts off with the question, why not Andrew? And the why not Andrew is Fiona wants him to go out with one of her friends because that just suits her and what she's trying to achieve with her friendship with him. And somewhere along the way, he doesn't even ask out this girl, Mandy, but all of a sudden they're on a date together. And I'm not going to tell you how it goes because you have to buy the book and read it to find out. But it's one of those things at high school. I'm sure, like, those of us who are a few years beyond high school probably remember the times when at high school, the boy and the girl don't ask each other out, but their friends go and talk to their friends who then somehow bring it all together. And so there's a little bit of that going on. So I'm going to read you about half a chapter that's quite far on in the book. Hopefully doesn't give too much away as well, but this is Andrew, and you'll see he's about to have lunch with Rachel and Anna. So that's two Rachel from the first book, okay? So, chapter 20, lunch. I entered the social area at the same time as Rachel and Anna. You free to have lunch with us? Asked Rachel. Sure. We queued up for our baked potatoes and headed to a free table near the front of the eating area. Rachel leaned into the middle of the table, drawing me closer in. You'll never guess what happened in French last period, she whispered, glancing around to see who was nearby. You got taught French? I had no idea what she could be referring to, so I decided sticking with the obvious answer was the best approach. Ha, she replied. Mandy was talking about you. Now you've got me worried. What did she say? Rachel looked at Anna. It couldn't be good if they were both shying away from telling me the details. She basically says she really likes you and she enjoyed your first date, but that the next date better end with a kiss, said Anna, giving a little shrug and a shy smile as if trying to apologise for someone else's words. What will I do? I asked them both, no longer confining myself to whispers. Didn't she say anything about the message I accidentally sent her last week, or her response during PSE? She didn't mention either of those, said Anna, but she was talking in a fairly loud voice, so maybe it was for our benefit, making it out it had all been some misunderstanding. I think you're right, Anna, said Rachel, because while she was talking, she kept glancing over at you. Rachel looked over at me. And then she said that you're meeting her up after school to walk her home. What? No, I'm not meeting her. Wrong line. No, I'm meeting her to explain everything and put an end to this. I racked my brain, trying to work out how she could have taken the wrong meaning from my message. What did you ask her? Said Rachel. I pulled out my phone to read the message to them. Can we meet at the end of school tomorrow? We need to talk. Oh, I hate to break it to you, Andrew, but you left yourself wide open with that one. She can interpret that as either a breakup text or a fix-it text. I put my head in my hands. As I looked up, I asked, dare I ask what Fiona was doing during all this? Encouraging it, of course, confirmed Rachel. So what will I do? As I asked the question, I looked up and noticed Mandy. She looked over and waved at me. But before the girls had a chance to reply, or Mandy had time to come over, the whole of the lunch hall was interrupted by a basketball bouncing along the tables. Quick, throw it here, shouted a first-year pupil. I threw it over to him without even registering that this wasn't normal. He grabbed the ball and bounced it down the hall before passing it to another pupil, seconds before another player intercepted him. The lunch hall came to life as everyone stood up and started cheering on the game or joining in. This will not end well, shouted Anna above the rising noise levels. One of the players was far too enthusiastic with his pass and threw the ball so high it shattered a light. As a group of players realised this would spell extra trouble, they turned round and started making towards the doors that would take them out to the playground. However, a line of teachers stood in front of the doors, blocking their escape route. The boy holding the ball threw it backwards, as if no longer holding the ball would mean he wasn't culpable. But the opposite happened when the ball bounced and hit Mandy in the face. The social area had never been so quiet. Everyone stood still. Into the carnage entered Mr. Pierce. Everyone who took part in this game to my office now, and be assured there is no point in pretending you weren't involved if you were. John, Kyle, Ben, Lauren, Emily, to my office now, and the rest of you who took part too. The named and shamed hung their heads and shuffled towards Mr. Pierce's office. A few moments ago, they were basking in the attention of everyone in the area. Now they were mortified by a different kind of attention. Everyone to their registration class now, shouted Mr. Pierce, walking to his office. I did not envy those pupils who were about to get it from our livid head teacher. I looked over at Mandy, a look of shock in her face. As Fiona and some other girls rushed round her, she burst out crying. How bad is it? She asked Fiona between the sobs. I've got cheerleading competition this weekend. I can't have a broken face. She was back to uncontrollable sobs as one of the pastoral teachers led her away. Whew, well, that's a lunchtime we won't forget in a hurry, said Rachel. How could I break up with Mandy after what had just happened to her? I had to work out what to do by home time. Dun dun dun!
Brilliant. Very well done, Caroline. Love all the different voices, especially the headmaster's voice. Have you maybe heard a couple of those in your life before, have you?
Yeah, also just shouting at other people.
Caroline, as I read the book, and I have to confess, it's not all that often I read teen fiction, but I do think one of the things which you captured really well was that kind of ebb and flow of relationship different groups of relationships.
Mhm.
And you just capture that kind of atmosphere. I remember reading that section that you read out, and that whole dining hall just going completely silent thing. It's just so true to life, isn't it? As you say, when we look back at that. And the other thing which I have to say that I discovered something that I really didn't know, but I actually now feel very trendy, is I often get laughed at just between you and me. I often get laughed at by, no, nobody's listening. I often get laughed at by my kids because I do this, and I didn't realise that that had a proper name. Apparently, it's called air quotes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there we go. There's something I knew that I never knew before. So when I do this in future and the kids laugh at me, I can say, it's air quotes. It's in a book, so it must be real.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you a little insight into that incident as well. So yeah. I'd kind of an overview written of the book, but I thought you've also got to have a bit of reality in your books as well as the fiction side of things. And so one of my kids had a friend over and we were just having pizza. It was a Friday night, so I said to them, give me some stories about high school. And they actually told me about an incident at their high school that involved very similar to that, but it was a football instead of basketball. So I was like, right, actually happens.
These things actually happened, yeah, that's right. Well, I think again, that's one of the things that I was very impressed by your book. Was there was a believability, there was an immediacy, which I think is really, really great, because presumably it's not aimed at sort of 60-something-year-old grandfathers, but you know, I can imagine for young people that'd be the kind of thing that they would read, because it enters their world and it works its way through. And even things like, I mean, I to be honest, I don't know what an interactive whiteboard is, but I do gather that they do have such things in school these days. Yes. In my days, the teachers had dusters which they threw at us to maintain order. But anyway, look, here's a couple of comments that have just come through. So Brittany says that she loved What If, and she can't wait to read Why Not. And apparently,
and she's in America.
Wow, really?
International big lunch.
There we go. So Ian agrees, and he said that he thought there should be a sequel to What If, and he's glad that there is. So there we go. So we've got our sequel coming up there just now. That's brilliant. Yeah. Oops. Excuse me a second, just while I'll have a look here. And oh dear. Marlette said, "Nice T-shirt, Caroline."
Oh yeah, I was going to say, did anybody spot the T-shirt?
Yes, she spotted the T-shirt. Well done. Very good. And there's somebody here called Innes who says, "I'm sneaking a peek at the live stream too, but he promises that he's using his data." And presumably hanging out the bathroom window if the reception's anything like as good as it is in our house. So that's great. Thanks so much. And apparently David says that Julie and David are watching from Troon with some fish and chips.
Making me jealous.
No, definitely. Hey, it'll be a fantastic evening down in Troon. There's an amazing sunset this evening,
I know, it's gorgeous.
Even in Straven. So yeah. So that's great. So here's a few questions for you. And and Fran says, "What's the Christian message in the new book? Is there one? Did you have it in mind from the beginning, or did it evolve?" And apparently that's 3 questions for the price of 1 from Fran. What's the Christian message? Is there one? And did you have it in mind from the beginning?
Very loosely in mind at the beginning. It kind of developed as Andrew's character developed throughout the course of the book. Depending on what I'm writing, I kind of have a different approach. I try not to be too structured and just let things kind of develop, especially when I'm writing the young adult fiction. I think it works better just to let it kind of come as it does. And yeah, actually, I mentioned PowerPoint in Why Not, which if you're a teenager or you have teenagers or you work with teenagers, It's like a really big event that happens in Edinburgh and Glasgow and Aberdeen, when we are allowed to be out together. Otherwise, just now it's online. And PowerPoint did a series that kind of just highlighted to keep pursuing the aspect of Andrew being average, and just how God doesn't see us as being average, but each one of us is an individual and has individual things to bring to the world and to give, and plans to be lived out that are unique for us. And so that's a bit of a theme that comes throughout, because he just sees himself as average over everything in his life. And so between his youth leader and his friendships with Rachel and Anna, it helps him see a little bit that there's more to him than just being average. And also that actually God uses average. So even if you do think you're average, it's not a negative, because God will still use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. And it is also really good, I think, the way you've just sort of worked that aspect of people's lives in. It isn't something that kind of exists on a Sunday morning, but rather it's something that's an aspect which young people are dealing with right the way through their lives and their relationships. So fantastic. So we've had a message here from Julie. Julie says, "Oh, I wish I lived closer." Now, if I remember rightly, Julie is actually in the Channel Isles. So that's great to see. And also Karen says, "Wishing you lots of success with your new book." And Joy said, "Excited to hear about your new book, off to buy it tomorrow."
Woo-hoo!
And what we're also going to say is, watch this space for Joy V.
Yes.
Be publishing a book as well with Instant Apostle. I think that's just been signed and good to go. So we're looking forward to working with Joy V in a few weeks. So yeah, I mean, another question there. Do you think there's still a demand for fiction for teens? Surely all young people do these days is read stuff on their phone. They're just interested in social media. Are there any bookworms left these days? What do you think?
Yes, there definitely is. And I think, kids are encouraged to read in whatever format and wherever they can, because any reading helps them. But where I quite often see, because I would say these books are kind of specifically about 11 to 14-year-olds as their kind of real target age group. And so it works beautifully as a present or a prize given thing. And so I know the likes of yourselves and the other Christian bookshops that these books are in, church prize giving tends to be a really good time for them to go. And also, I just had somebody who runs an SU group who put like a really amazingly big order with me as well, which is so encouraging, because they want to give books out as presents to their young people, and because there's something a little bit more lasting about a book, that makes it a little bit more personal, and they might then read it a few times rather than just one time if they read like an ebook or just something on their phone. And certainly for me as a parent, I always make sure the kids get new books at Christmas time and at various times throughout the year, because we don't want them being on devices all the time. So looking at it from that point of view, and definitely for our kids, because there's a whole thing as well about their brain activity when they're trying to get to sleep. And it's not that books are boring, it's just it's a really good way for us to calm down and just settle. And so definitely for our kids, we definitely recommend them reading actual books for bedtime. So yeah, I definitely think all these other things that kids can read just expands their market for them, but books are definitely still there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I do agree with you. Because we'll quite often see young people are out the shop just with their head in a book, and it's a lovely thing to see, actually. So we've already got some suggestions coming in for the next, for the next book in the series.
Oh, brilliant!
So
okay.
Maybe we should open that up to the floor. But Mark says, is the third book going to be called Where Next?
Okay, do you know what? I should be taking a note of these because
Yes. Oh well, I'm telling you, it's here in perpetuity. It's going to be there, and people are welcome to send the names in.
Okay, so here's your guidelines, people, if you're going to send in like things. So I was just thinking that how we've got the who, what, where, why, when.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So we've got what and why covered. So we need the other three covered. So, use that as your thing to go with. So
yes, that's
feel
fine.
free to send in some suggestions.
That's fine. And then we'll need to look for another couple to make it up to the 8, but there we go.
Yeah.
Brittany asks, are any of your characters based on real people? And I wonder if we should open brackets and say, have your kids been acting as a model for any of your characters? Would they recognize themselves?
No, because I don't think they would like me if I did that. What I would actually say is, what if I took things that happened to me at high school as the basis, but then made them way more interesting and and book worthy than my life was. But definitely, what if was definitely more based on my experience of high school and just some of the things that happened. I would say that I did have, Rachel has an experience where she gets split up in maths class because she was talking to her friend too much. And then that leads to arguing with David all the time. And I would say that happened to me at maths. I got split up because I was talking too much to a girl, and the guy who got put beside me, the two of us just argued the whole time. And that's where the resemblance stops. But that was like one of the things. Whereas by the time I wrote Why Not, my kids then were in high school, and I was obviously up in high school for parents' nights and various things. And so I got to see what their high school was like. And so then when I was writing Why Not, my thoughts are more with nowadays and what high schools are like now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's good to be able to sort of try and take these kind of things. Because obviously there are sort of some of the timeless classics for schools. But the reality is that they don't, sometimes they don't compute into the modern way things are. We've got a question here from Miriam, who I think is one of your bookworms that you've identified. For someone whose dream has always been to write my own books, what advice would you have to start and help my ideas blossom? How would I keep myself motivated?
Okay, brilliant.
So there's a couple of questions there. What advice would you have to start and help my ideas blossom? How to keep myself motivated?
Okay, so funnily enough, I was helping out with the teenage group at church last night, and we were talking about slogans, and of course, Nike's slogan, "Just do it," which, is such a good thing for almost any part of life. And so when it comes to writing, just do it. And certainly for me, I actually find first draft is the hardest. I quite like editing because, which sounds weird, but I like editing my work, and I'll go through so many variations before I get from the first edition to what actually ends up coming, because I find it easier to work and improve on something that's already there. Some people, like Joy, who we mentioned earlier, is able just to go and she writes a book in 2 nights. She's amazing. I totally don't do it that way. So you have to find out the system that works for you. And also buddy up with somebody who's already writing and just encourage one another, and set yourself targets and see how you're getting on. Did you get that word count done? And yeah, that's definitely a good way. It's good for somebody like me because I'm a real people person, so I need to be around people, and just have that kind of shared experience, and have somebody to talk about with it.
Good.
But yeah.
So were these your first bits of writing? Did you publish in magazines or newspapers or anything beforehand?
No.
You just went straight to the published book. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'm very good at short stories. So I think having the length of a book, I think as well, I like doing more character-based stuff. So I tend to find you need the length of a book to really bring somebody along their journey, which I find hard to do in a short story. So I haven't done publications of anything anywhere else, just straight to the books.
Right, okay. And if you don't mind me asking, you're obviously involved in your church, involved with young people. And, you know, presumably as part of that, you're just sort of chatting to them and trying to just help them and guide them through, as you mentioned, some of the ebbs and the flows of life. Do you think that writing fiction, has that got some advantages to just say to them, you ought to do this, and you ought to do that, and you ought to do the next thing? What advantages or even disadvantages do you think fiction has as a way of helping young people through their life?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of advantage to it. And I think just in the way there is for us as adults as well. I know for a lot of us, we'll be reading fiction and maybe non-fiction at the same time, because there's something to be gained from both. And I know there's a lot of fiction books I've read, and I've just got so much from it. And sometimes it's even hard to say exactly what you got, but you just get to the end of the book and you just feel encouraged or inspired or just equipped to kind of move on. And so I think for young people as well, that's definitely still the case, because, and I think that's why I like to write in first person, is to really bring them into the story. And part of it is to say to people, you're not alone. What you're thinking and feeling is normal. Other people think and feel that way too. And just to kind of try and put them in the story as well, just to help them process through with the main characters. I think, yeah, it's definitely a useful way of helping people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And just looking back to my own teenage years, reading allowed you to kind of make sense of things and, you know, sort of the things that you enjoyed or the things that you weren't coping with. You know, as you enter into the different characters, then it just gives you that kind of sense of identification, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so look, Caroline, that's fantastic. Really appreciate your time here today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Obviously, by the sound of things, this isn't the last book launch you'll be doing.
No.
And obviously, we were, you know, in the Glow Bookshop, and I'm sure in many other bookshops in the country as well, they'll be glad to partner with you as you do that, because there is a real lasting and tangible benefit to reading in these different genres as well. So, you know, as you continue this work and as it provides opportunities, and I'm sure it will provide opportunities, I think you mentioned on your Facebook page recently that somebody had contacted you about, I think they bought one of Why Not, and they'd come back to you because they were looking for some more. Can you just tell us something about that?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, I'm not sure if she's listening tonight as well. So it was a woman who, she bought What If a couple of years ago at a conference, and then I met her at the same conference but 2 years on this year, and she was like just so like encouraging about What If, and that kind of really means a lot, because when people I know tell me they've enjoyed it and it's good, I kind of like, yeah, you got to say that because you know me. So when somebody I don't know tells me that, it really, really helps me and encourages me. And so she got an early copy of Why Not, and then asked to get a bunch of both of them so they could give them to their SU group, because they're not able to meet just now the way they would normally meet. So it's able to give the girls something. And especially as quite a few of the girls aren't from church backgrounds and stuff, then it's kind of a bit of a way for them to kind of get introduced a bit more into those things without it being like really heavy-handed or anything, and just hopefully speak to them where they're at as well. So yeah, so that was just absolutely wonderful and such an amazing encouragement, especially as when she got in touch with me, it was last Thursday, and that was the day that I popped over to see you guys and then went to Richie Bookshop as well. So it was like a very happy day to see a lot of books going out to the shops and people. So
yes, that's right, and that positive feedback. So we've just got one last question, Kate, come in, one last question that you're going to take, although for everybody else out there, there's no problem with contacting Caroline either through a website or through a Facebook page, Caroline Johnston, author page. and I'm sure the link will be up on the page somewhere. And Tara says, do you read different kinds of books yourselves as you're going through the writing process? And how does what you read impact what you write? Do you read different kinds of books yourself? And does what you read impact what you write?
I think what I've actually been finding is what I've been reading has just encouraged me that I'm maybe like on the right track with some of what I'm doing, or that these things are an issue. And so, for example, with Why Not, when I'd written that, and it's quite funny because my kids are like they just love being part of the process and chatting about what I'm doing as well. And so they were the ones who started to come up, oh, like you need to have these other books in the series, and it needs to include this and this, and we need to find out more about Fiona and what her motivations are. And then my daughter had got the books about, oh no, I forgot the name of the book, the one about Augie. Can't remember what the book's called. The follow-on book's called Augie and Me, but now I can't remember what the actual first book's called. But it's about the boy who's got the disfigured face and stuff as well. And it's kind of like a little bit younger than the characters in my book.
Yes.
But some of the issues that were being covered, like in that book, I was like, yeah, that's like what I'm trying to talk about with these books as well. And just so it's just saying that, yeah, these are the issues that matter to young people, and these are the things that need to be covered. And I think as well, just in terms of raincoats and sunglasses, obviously it's aimed at grown-up market. And so just some of the other like Christian fiction books I'll read as well, just that, yeah, this is hitting where it should be hitting and stuff as well. So
good. Yeah. That's right, and it's a question of sort of drawing these influences in and then filtering through, because it's your story, you can't include everything. You know, and that's one of the most difficult things, I'm sure. Caroline, it's been wonderful to talk to you, and thank you so much for your time and just talking through some of the motivations and your passion, and not only your heart for writing, but also as well your heart for young people as well. That comes through so strongly in all that you do, and we pray for God's rich blessing on you as you continue this this writing career that you're on. So what we want to do is just say thank you to everybody this evening who's been with us and who's taken the time to watch. Particularly thank you for your questions. You can obviously still sort of put questions to us and we can get back to you. And yes, watch out for other Facebook Live events from the Globe Bookshop as time goes on. And we'll be showing again, after the conclusion, we'll be showing again the special offers on Caroline's book. And obviously, if we can help you with those over the weekend or any time, then we'd be more than happy to help you with that. So good night from Andrew at the Globe Bookshop, or my back room. And it's good night from Caroline at her publishing house over in Paisley. And thanks very much to everybody for tuning in.
Thank you so much too, Andrew. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good night now.